Security! Remove this vagrant before he steals something! Brittany Walsh's hand swept violently across the marble counter. Business cards exploded into the air, fluttering down like confetti. Her designer heel crushed one underfoot. The words, David Washington, CEO, disappearing under patent leather. "Don't you dare touch anything else," she hissed, stepping closer. Her finger jabbed toward his chest. "People like you don't belong here." David Washington, 45, stood motionless in his navy blazer. His leather bag remained steady on his shoulder. Around them, a dozen employees froze mid-stride, phones lifting instinctively. Emma Rodriguez's live stream captured everything. His phone buzzed. 2:25 p.m. Board meeting starts in 5 minutes. Have you ever walked into a space where you belonged, only to be treated like an intruder in your own kingdom? David pulled out a crisp business card from his messenger bag. "I'm here for the 2:30 board meeting." Brittany's laugh was sharp as breaking glass. "Delivery entrance is downstairs, sweetie. We don't do charity interviews here." She didn't even glance at the card before flicking it toward the trash bin. It bounced off the rim and skittered across the marble floor. "Ma'am, I need to reach the executive floor." "Listen carefully," Brittany interrupted, her voice dripping condescension. She leaned forward, elbows on the marble counter. "This is Meridian Tech Solutions. We design software for Fortune 500 companies. You're obviously lost." Emma Rodriguez adjusted her phone angle, whispering to her live stream audience. "This is insane, guys! I'm here for a corporate culture tour and—" The viewer count jumped. 312, 445, 678. David remained calm, his voice steady. "If you could just call up to Chairman Wu's office." "Chairman Wu?" Brittany's eyebrows shot up. "Oh, honey, you really went all in on this fantasy, didn't you?" She turned to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard with theatrical flair. "Let me guess. You Googled our executives and memorized some names?" Her tone carried the casual cruelty of someone who'd never been challenged. The designer clothes, perfect makeup, and entitled attitude formed a shield of superiority she'd wielded her entire professional life. "I suppose you know all about our quarterly projections, too?" she continued, her voice getting louder for the growing audience. "Maybe you've studied our acquisition strategies, our AI development roadmap?" David opened his mouth to respond, but she wasn't finished performing for the crowd. The elevator dinged. Jennifer Kim, the floor manager, emerged carrying a coffee and iPad. Her tailored suit screamed authority, her expression broadcasting annoyance before she'd even assessed the situation. "What's the commotion, Britt?" Jennifer's eyes swept over David dismissively, taking in his casual attire with obvious disdain. "This gentleman thinks he has a meeting with Chairman Wu," Brittany said, air-quoting gentleman with barely concealed mockery. "Claims to be here for a board meeting." Jennifer's laugh joined Brittany's, creating a symphony of professional cruelty. "Right, and I suppose you're here about the acquisition deal, too?" She stepped closer to David, her voice dropping to a stage whisper meant to be overheard. "Security cameras are recording everything, so whatever scam you're running ends right now." 3 more employees had drifted closer, drawn by the confrontation. Their phones were out, capturing every moment. The marble lobby amplified every word, turning the interaction into an impromptu theater performance. David's phone buzzed again. 2:27 p.m., 3 minutes until meeting. "Look," he said quietly, reaching for his wallet. "I can show you my—" "Don't you dare reach into anything!" Brittany snapped, her hand hovering near the panic button. "Jennifer, call Rodriguez. Now!" The panic button was purely theatrical, a red emergency alert that connected directly to building security. Brittany's finger hovered over it like she was defusing a bomb instead of dealing with a politely dressed visitor. David's wallet remained half pulled from his jacket. Inside, the edge of a black American Express card was clearly visible, along with an executive parking garage key card marked Level E, Executive Only. But neither woman bothered to look. Jennifer was already on her phone, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Carlos, we need you at 38 immediately. Potential trespasser situation." She paused, studying David with obvious disdain. "Well-dressed, but you know the type. Probably watched too many movies about corporate infiltration." The phrase, "you know the type," landed like a slap. Several employees shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the coded language for what it was. Emma's live stream exploded with comments moving too fast to read. "This is discrimination. Someone help him! Are they serious right now? Where's HR when you need them? I'm calling channel 7 inches. The viewer count hit 834 and climbed rapidly. 5 employees from nearby desks had subtly moved closer, pretending to organize files while recording on their phones. Sarah from accounting held her device low, capturing the entire exchange. Mike from IT was live tweeting updates to his 3,000 followers with the hashtag #MeridianDrama. "Sir," Jennifer said, closing the distance between them with aggressive body language, "I'm going to need you to leave immediately. This building requires security clearance for all visitors, and you clearly don't belong here." The word "clearly" carried venom. Her eyes swept over his clothes again, cataloging every detail that didn't match her expectations of executive appearance. David nodded toward the visitor sign-in tablet on Brittany's desk. "I'd be happy to register through your system." "The system is down for maintenance." Brittany lied smoothly, not even looking at the device. The tablet screen clearly displayed the Meridian logo and "Welcome, please sign in" message in bright blue letters. "Besides," Jennifer added with growing confidence, "we already told your people yesterday, no soliciting, no community outreach, no diversity presentations. The answer hasn't changed, and it won't change." "My people." David's voice carried the first hint of steel. Brittany waved her hand dismissively, her manicured nails catching the lobby lighting. "You know what she means. Community organizations, diversity groups, social justice, whatever. We donate through proper corporate channels, not to random people who show up claiming to have meetings." The casual racism was breathtaking in its openness. Both women seemed completely comfortable making these assumptions in front of a growing audience. "We get at least 3 of you people every week," Jennifer continued, warming to her subject. "Same story every time. Important meeting, know the executives personally, just need 5 minutes. It's always something." Emma's phone was getting hot from streaming, but she couldn't stop recording. This was turning into the story of a lifetime. Comments were flooding in from viewers sharing their own discrimination experiences. The elevator dinged again. Carlos Rodriguez, head of security, stepped out with 2 junior guards. 52 years old, former Chicago PD, Rodriguez carried himself with practiced authority. His experienced eyes immediately assessed the situation. One black male, early 40s, no visible threats, surrounded by increasingly agitated staff. But Rodriguez was also a professional who'd seen real criminals. David's posture, clothing quality, and calm demeanor didn't match any threat profile in his 20 years of security work. "What's the situation here?" Rodriguez asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Attempted infiltration," Jennifer announced dramatically, as if describing a terrorist incident. "Claims to have a board meeting with Chairman Wu, refuses to leave when asked politely." Rodriguez approached David with professional caution but without aggression. "Sir, I need to see some identification." David slowly reached for his wallet again, moving deliberately to avoid alarming anyone. This time, no one stopped him. He pulled out a pristine Illinois driver's license and handed it over. Rodriguez studied it briefly, noting the premium cardstock and security features. "David Washington, Chicago address." He looked up with growing interest. "What's the nature of your business here, Mr. Washington?" "Board meeting at 2:30, David replied simply, checking his phone again. Brittany snorted loudly. "He's been spinning that ridiculous lie for 10 minutes. But Rodriguez noticed something the others had missed. David's calm confidence, his expensive accessories, his complete lack of nervousness despite being surrounded by security. In his experience, people running scams showed signs of stress when confronted by law enforcement. Rodriguez's radio crackled. "All units, be advised. Chairman W's assistant called down. VIP arrival running slightly behind schedule. Expected 2:35. David's phone buzzed. 2:29 p.m. Meeting starting in 1 minute. Emma's live stream had reached 1,247 viewers. Comments flooded the screen faster than anyone could read them. 3 different employees were now openly recording, no longer pretending to hide their phones. The tension was reaching a breaking point when David made his decision. The elevator doors opened, revealing 3 board members in expensive suits. Chairman Patricia Wu, 61, led the group with the confidence of someone who'd built her fortune from nothing. Behind her, legal counsel Michael Carter checked his phone, while CFO Sarah Johnson carried a tablet displaying quarterly projections. They stepped into the lobby, scanning for their expected CEO. Patricia's eyes found David immediately. Her professional smile faltered as she took in the scene. Security guards flanking him, employees recording with phones, the live stream audience now approaching 2,000 viewers. "David?" Patricia's voice carried across the marble space. "What's happening here?" The question hung in the air like a live wire. Brittany's face was drained of color. Her hands began trembling against the marble counter. Jennifer's iPad slipped from her suddenly nerveless fingers, clattering against the stone floor with a sharp crack that made everyone flinch. Rodriguez's hand moved instinctively away from his radio, his 20 years of police experience suddenly useless in this corporate minefield. "There seems to be some confusion about my identity," David said evenly. "I was just about to provide clarification." Patricia Wu Yu's expression darkened as she processed the implications. 23 years building Meridian Tech from a garage startup to $1.8 billion in annual revenue had taught her to read situations instantly. Her gaze swept from David to the security guards to the phones capturing everything. The lobby had transformed into an impromptu theater. 15 employees now formed a loose semicircle around the drama, their phones held high like digital torches. The marble space amplified every whispered conversation, every nervous breath, every soft beep of incoming notifications. Emma's live stream chat was moving too fast to follow. "Oh my God, he's the CEO. Called it. This is going viral, someone call the news. I'm screen recording everything. Someone wants to explain why our new CEO is surrounded by security?" Her voice could have flash frozen the Chicago River. Jennifer's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Brittany gripped the edge of her desk, knuckles white against the marble, her breathing becoming rapid and shallow. "Ma'am," Rodriguez began, his voice tight with growing panic. "These ladies reported a potential trespasser. I was following standard protocol would be verifying identity before drawing conclusions." Patricia interrupted, her tone carrying the weight of decades in corporate warfare. Michael Carter stepped forward, his legal instincts screaming danger. "We need immediate damage control. How many people are currently recording this?" The answer was terrifying. Sarah from accounting had been live tweeting every detail to her 800 followers. Mike from IT was broadcasting to his 3,000 LinkedIn connections. 2 visitors in the lobby had started their own Facebook live streams. Emma's original live stream had spawned 4 derivative recordings from viewers capturing their screens. The digital wildfire was already beyond containment. "What identification did you request from Mr. Washington?" Patricia asked Rodriguez directly. Rodriguez held up David's driver's license with hands that weren't quite steady. "Illinois State ID, ma'am. Standard procedure for unregistered visitors." Patricia's eyes flashed with dangerous intensity. "Did anyone think to examine his business card? Check for an employee badge, verify his phone contacts, review the executive transition memo sent Friday to all department heads?" Each question landed like a physical blow. Jennifer's face went progressively paler with each word. She had received the memo. She had read it. She had simply never imagined the new CEO would look like this. Brittany pointed toward the scattered cards on the floor with a shaking finger. He could have printed fake ones. People do that all the time for scams." Patricia walked deliberately to where David's business card lay crumpled near the trash bin. She picked it up, smoothing the expensive cardstock between her fingers with surgical precision. The Meridian logo was perfectly embossed, the paper quality executive level, the typography matching their official branding exactly. "This card was printed by Crane & Company, our exclusive corporate vendor," she announced, her voice deadly quiet. "They embed security watermarks specifically designed to prevent counterfeiting. Each executive card costs $47 to produce." The mathematical precision of her anger was more terrifying than shouting would have been. Jennifer finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "We couldn't have known." "The public announcement isn't until Monday." "Internal communications went to all department heads Friday at 4:17 p.m., Sarah Johnson said, consulting her tablet with clinical accuracy. The subject line was, "Executive Leadership Transition, Immediate Implementation. Did you not receive it, Jennifer?" The question detonated like a bomb in the marble space. Department heads were contractually required to brief their teams on major leadership changes within 24 hours. Jennifer's failure wasn't just incompetence, it was a violation of company policy. David reached into his messenger bag, moving with deliberate slowness. Every eye tracked his motion as he pulled out an executive parking key card, the kind only 5 people in the building possessed. The metallic surface caught the lobby lighting, reflecting tiny rainbows across the marble walls like scattered diamonds. "Level E access," he said simply, displaying the card to Rodriguez. "Executive parking, biometrically encoded." Assigned Monday morning at 6:43 a.m., Rodriguez examined the key card with growing horror. Level E was restricted to C-suite executives and board members. The cards required fingerprint authentication, facial recognition, and encrypted proximity sensors. They were impossible to duplicate or steal. Emma's viewer count hit 2,847 and climbing. Her phone battery indicator showed 23% and dropping rapidly under the strain of streaming high-definition video to an exponentially growing audience. "This is absolutely insane," she whispered to her viewers, her voice tight with disbelief. "I came here for a simple corporate culture tour and I'm witnessing, I don't even know what to call this anymore." Patricia W.'s phone erupted with incoming calls. News of the live stream was spreading through Chicago's business community at digital light speed. Her assistant's text messages were becoming increasingly frantic. "Tribune business reporter on line 1-inch, Channel 7 wants immediate statement. LinkedIn post, 500 shares in 10 minutes. WSJ calling about acquisition rumors." David's phone showed 23 missed calls from board members, investors, industry reporters, and 3 venture capital partners who'd somehow already caught wind of the situation. Michael Carter pulled Patricia into a quick huddle, speaking in urgent whispers. "We need absolute damage control, right now. This could completely derail the acquisition announcement." The $750 million AI startup acquisition was supposed to be Meridian's triumphant entry into artificial intelligence. David had been hired specifically to lead the integration. The final signing was scheduled for Tuesday morning. The startup founders, young, idealistic, obsessed with corporate culture, had specifically chosen Meridian over Google and Microsoft because of the diversity promises in David's hiring announcement. If they saw their new CEO being treated as a trespasser on social media— "How many people know about the acquisition details?" Patricia asked quietly. "Full board, legal team, the 3 startup founders, about 15 people across both companies, and the SEC filing team," Carter replied rapidly. "But if this narrative gets twisted, if it looks like we have internal chaos or cultural problems—" The startup's founders had turned down a $900 million offer from Google specifically because they wanted to work with a more progressive, inclusive company. Bad publicity could kill the deal instantly. Patricia's decision crystallized with corporate precision. David reached into his jacket pocket with deliberate precision. The motion was slow, controlled, designed not to alarm the 3 security guards still positioned around him. Every person in the lobby tracked his movement. 15 employees, 3 board members, 2 visitors, and nearly 3,000 live-stream viewers holding their collective breath. His fingers emerged holding a slim black key card. The card itself was unremarkable at first glance, matte black plastic with the Meridian logo embossed in subtle silver. But Jennifer Kim, despite her panic, recognized what she was seeing. Her face went from pale to gray. "Level E executive access," David said quietly, holding the card up for everyone to see. The lobby fell into absolute silence. Even the ambient noise of the building's ventilation system seemed to pause. Emma's live-stream chat exploded into digital chaos, but she had muted her phone's audio. The only sound was the soft hum of LED lighting and 23 people barely breathing. Rodriguez stared at the key card like it was radioactive. In 17 years of building security, he'd seen exactly 7 of these cards. 5 belonged to current board members. 1 belonged to the outgoing CEO who'd retired last week. The 7th had been issued Monday morning to— David stepped toward the executive elevator bank. 3 brushed steel doors marked "Authorized Personnel Only." He pressed the key card against a discreet black scanner. The scanner pulsed red for 1 eternal second, then green. A soft chime echoed through the marble space, not the standard elevator ding, but the distinctive 3-note harmony reserved exclusively for executive access. The center elevator doors opened with whisper-quiet precision, revealing an interior lined with Brazilian cherry wood and ambient lighting. Brittany's legs buckled. She grabbed the reception desk with both hands, her designer nails scraping against marble. A sound escaped her throat, part gasp, part sob, part the dying breath of her career. Jennifer's iPad clattered to the floor again as her hands went completely limp. Rodriguez took an involuntary step backward, his radio slipping from his belt to bounce against the stone. But David didn't move toward the elevator. Instead, he turned to face the crowd, the key card still visible in his raised hand. "Brittany," he said, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "I'm David Washington. I was appointed Chief Executive Officer of Meridian Technologies 6 days ago by unanimous board vote. Today is my first official day." His words landed like individual stones dropping into still water, each one creating expanding circles of realization. "You've been working as head receptionist for 8 months, he continued, his tone remaining conversational despite the devastation he was delivering. "Your employee ID number is MT 4847. Your annual salary is $62,000. You report to Jennifer Kim, who reports to our Chief Operations Officer." The specificity was crushing. No one without absolute access to HR systems could know those details. Brittany's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Mascara began tracking down her cheeks in thin black lines. "Jennifer," David continued, turning his attention to the floor manager, "you received the executive transition memo Friday at 4:17 p.m. The subject line was Leadership Change, Confidential Briefing Required. You opened it at 4:23 p.m. and marked it as read. You were contractually obligated to brief your team within 24 hours. Jennifer's face crumpled. I didn't think... You don't look like... Like what? David asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a blade. Jennifer's mouth worked frantically, but no words came. Every possible response was a confession. Emma's live stream viewer count hit 3,892. Comments were flooding in faster than human eyes could track. "She's done. This is career suicide. Imagine being racist to your own boss. Someone call HR. Oh, wait. This is going on Reddit." Patricia Wu stepped forward, her expression a masterclass in controlled fury. "David, I apologize on behalf of..." "No apologies needed from you, Patricia," David interrupted gently. "You didn't create this situation." He looked around the lobby, taking in the faces of 15 Meridian employees who'd witnessed everything. Some looked ashamed, others appeared stunned. A few seemed angry, not at him, but at their colleagues who'd created this disaster. "What I find interesting," David continued, his voice maintaining that same calm tone, "is the assumptions everyone made based purely on appearance." He gestured toward his outfit. The navy blazer, dark jeans, leather messenger bag that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "I'm wearing a Tom Ford blazer, custom tailored in Milan. These jeans are Brunello Cucinelli, retail price $800. My shoes are handmade Berluti leather, $1,400. My bag is a Hermes, limited edition." Each price point landed like a physical blow. The total value of his casual outfit exceeded most people's monthly salary. "But none of that matters," he said, his voice hardening slightly. "What matters is that I walked into this building as a human being deserving basic respect, and I was treated like a criminal." Rodriguez found his voice, though it came out as barely a croak. "Sir, I was following protocol." "Whose protocol?" David asked, turning his full attention to the security chief. "Show me the written procedure that says assume criminal intent based on skin color." Rodriguez's mouth opened and closed uselessly. David's phone buzzed with an incoming call. The display showed Marcus Carter AI Acquisition Team, the startup's lead attorney, calling at the worst possible moment. David declined the call, but the implication was clear. News of this incident was already spreading beyond the building. "The most fascinating part," David continued, addressing the entire lobby, "is that my business card was right there on the floor. My name, my title, our company logo. Instead of examining it, you threw it in the trash." Patricia Wu bent down and retrieved the crumpled card, smoothing it carefully. The embossed letters caught the light. David Washington, Chief Executive Officer. "This card costs $47 to produce," she announced to the crowd. "It requires executive authorization to print. The security watermarks are visible under UV light. Anyone with basic verification training would have recognized its authenticity immediately." Jennifer began crying openly now, understanding the full scope of her failure. She hadn't just embarrassed herself. She'd created a potential legal nightmare, a PR disaster, and quite possibly killed the biggest acquisition in company history. But David still wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone and opened an app. The screen displayed a real-time view of Meridian's stock price, which had somehow already begun fluctuating as news of the incident spread through trading algorithms monitoring social media sentiment. "Our stock price has dropped 1.3% in the last 15 minutes, he said, showing the screen to Patricia. That represents approximately $24 million in market capitalization lost while I've been standing in this lobby. The mathematical precision of the damage was staggering. Emma's phone battery hit 8%. Her hands were shaking from holding the device steady for so long, but she couldn't stop recording. This was the story of her lifetime unfolding in real time. David looked directly into her camera lens for the first time. "I assume you're recording this for social media?" he said, his tone completely conversational. "That's fine. The world should see exactly how discrimination works in corporate America." Then he turned back to face Brittany and Jennifer. "What happens next," he said quietly, "will depend entirely on how you handle the next 60 seconds. David stepped fully into the executive elevator, but held his hand against the door sensor, preventing it from closing. The gesture was subtle but unmistakably powerful. He could leave at any moment, abandoning this entire situation to spiral beyond anyone's control. "Patricia," he said, his voice carrying the measured authority of someone who'd just taken command of a $1.8 billion company, "I believe we need an emergency board session, right now." Patricia Wu nodded grimly, understanding the implications. "Michael, Sarah, conference room 7 immediately. Full legal review protocol." The 3 board members moved toward the executive elevator bank like generals mobilizing for war, but David raised his hand, stopping them mid-stride. "This conversation happens down here," he announced, his voice echoing across the marble space, in full view of everyone who witnessed what just occurred. Emma's live stream viewer count hit 4,627 and climbing rapidly. The chat was moving so fast it appeared as a blur of outrage, shock, and anticipation. 3 major business journalists were already in the comments section, identifying themselves with verified badges and requesting immediate contact information. Patricia's phone buzzed with an incoming call from the Chicago Tribune's business desk. She declined it without looking, but the screen immediately lit up again. CNBC this time, followed immediately by Bloomberg News. "David," Michael Carter said carefully, his 20 years of corporate legal training screaming warnings. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Legal exposure considerations, media containment." "The legal exposure already happened," David interrupted, his tone razor-sharp and uncompromising. "It happened when my business card was deliberately thrown in the trash. It happened when security was summoned based solely on racial profiling. It happened when 4,600 people watched systematic discrimination unfold in real time on social media platforms." He turned to face Brittany directly. She was still gripping the reception desk with both hands, her knuckles white with terror, mascara streaking down her cheeks in dark rivers that stained her designer blouse. "Miss Walsh, you've been employed by Meridian Technologies for 8 months and 12 days. Your starting salary was $58,000 annually. You received a $4,000 performance-based raise 6 weeks ago following your quarterly review. Is that information accurate?" Brittany nodded mutely, unable to form coherent words. Her breathing had become rapid and shallow, bordering on hyperventilation. "Your performance review specifically noted exceptional customer service skills, professional demeanor with all visitors, outstanding representation of company values, and recommended for advancement track," David continued, consulting his phone with surgical precision. "Would you characterize today's interaction as reflecting those professionally evaluated qualities?" I didn't know. I couldn't have known," she whispered, her voice breaking completely. "Ignorance of someone's identity isn't a legal defense for discriminatory behavior," Michael Carter interjected grimly, his lawyer instincts engaging. "Section 3.1 of every Meridian employment contract specifically prohibits discriminatory behavior based on race, gender, religion, age, sexual orientation, or perceived socioeconomic status." David nodded, seamlessly picking up the legal thread. Section 3. 7 mandates respectful treatment of all building visitors regardless of appearance, perceived status, or personal assumptions. Section 4.2 requires verification procedures that preserve human dignity. Are you familiar with these contractual clauses, Miss Walsh? Patricia Wu stepped forward, her expression carved from granite and corporate fury. All employees signed detailed acknowledgement forms confirming they've read, understood, and legally agreed to abide by company policy without exception. Brittany signed her compliance document on January 15th at 2:43 p.m. The digital signature is legally binding. The precision was devastating. Every detail was meticulously documented, every policy violation clearly established, every legal protection already firmly in place. David's phone rang again, the distinctive tone cutting through the tense silence. This time, the caller ID showed Rebecca Martinez, WSJ Business Desk. He declined the call but deliberately showed the screen to Patricia, letting her see the growing media interest. Wall Street Journal. They're already asking pointed questions about our corporate culture and leadership transition. Jennifer Kim finally found her voice, though it emerged as barely a whisper threaded with growing desperation. Mr. Washington, please, can't we handle this internally, through proper HR channels? I have 2 young children, a mortgage, elderly parents who depend on my income. You should have carefully considered your family's financial security, David replied without a trace of mercy or sympathy, before you made the calculated decision to publicly humiliate your company's newly appointed CEO based purely and explicitly on the color of his skin. His words landed with the devastating force of judicial sentencing. Jennifer's face crumpled completely, understanding the full scope of her professional destruction. The lobby had filled significantly with additional spectators as word of the confrontation spread like wildfire through the building's internal Slack channels and messaging systems. Nearly 45 employees now crowded around the reception area, creating a natural amphitheater with David positioned at the dramatic center of corporate justice. Sarah Johnson consulted her tablet intensively, pulling up real-time analytics that painted an increasingly dire picture of cascading damage. Our LinkedIn company page is being absolutely bombarded with negative comments and reviews. Glassdoor ratings have plummeted from 4.2 stars to 2.7 stars in 26 minutes. Indeed, job postings are receiving hostile attention and withdrawal threats. Our stock price has dropped another 1.2% in after-hours trading. The digital reputation damage was accelerating exponentially, spreading through business networks and social media platforms like an uncontainable wildfire. More critically for our immediate future, David said, addressing the full crowd with devastating calm, our acquisition partners are asking increasingly urgent and pointed questions. The AI startup consortium we're purchasing for $750 million specifically chose Meridian over Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook because of our publicly stated commitment to diversity, inclusion, and progressive corporate culture. Audible gasps rippled through the assembled employees. The acquisition details were supposed to remain strictly confidential until Tuesday's scheduled press conference. This leak represented yet another layer of unfolding crisis. Michael Carter looked genuinely panicked now, his legal training recognizing the multiplying disasters. David, that information is still under strict SEC confidentiality requirements. The SEC filing becomes completely irrelevant. David cut him off with surgical precision. If our acquisition partners withdraw due to what they justifiably perceive as fundamental systemic cultural problems within our organization's leadership structure. He held up his phone, displaying a missed call log that told the escalating story of crisis management. Rebecca Carter from Quantum AI Solutions called me 21 minutes ago asking about deeply concerning social media reports regarding our corporate culture. Dr. James Liu from Neural Networks Inc. sent 3 urgent text messages requesting immediate executive clarification about serious discrimination allegations. Sarah Kim from Deep Tech Solutions wants an emergency video conference call within the hour. The staggering financial implications hit the assembled crowd like a physical force. $750 million, the largest acquisition in Meridian's 30-year corporate history. The company's entire artificial intelligence strategy, their competitive future positioning, their stock valuation trajectory, all dependent on this single transformative business deal. David pulled up another specialized application on his phone, showing real-time social media monitoring that resembled a digital war room command center. The hashtag #MeridianCEO is trending nationally on LinkedIn with over 12,000 mentions. #corporate discrimination is climbing rapidly on Twitter with 8,500 shares. #tech industry bias is gaining serious momentum across multiple platforms, including Instagram and TikTok. He turned the phone screen toward the crowd, displaying a breaking news headline that made several employees audibly gasp in horror. Chicago Tech CEO allegedly racially profiled by own employees in explosive viral live stream, stock price plummets. Allegedly, David repeated with dark, bitter humor that cut through the tension. As if there's any reasonable question about what 4,900 people watched happen in real time with crystal clear video evidence. Rodriguez stepped forward with visible effort, his security training finally overriding his shock and confusion. Sir, what are your immediate operational instructions regarding comprehensive building security protocol reforms? It was the first genuinely intelligent, professional question anyone had asked during 38 minutes of unfolding chaos. Complete security protocol review and systematic overhaul, David replied immediately, his executive crisis management training engaging fully. Comprehensive retraining for all security personnel within 72 hours maximum. New verification procedures that emphasize dignity, respect, and professional courtesy. Anyone who approaches any visitor with assumptions based on appearance, clothing, accent, or racial profiling will face immediate termination without severance. He turned to Patricia with the focused intensity of someone accustomed to high-stakes crisis management. I want comprehensive new anti-discrimination policies drafted and implemented by close of business today. Anonymous bias reporting system operational within 48 hours. Mandatory implicit bias training for every single employee, starting immediately with all management personnel and board members. Patricia nodded grimly, already making detailed notes on her phone while fielding 3 more incoming calls from reporters. Legal will draft comprehensive protocols immediately and coordinate with HR for immediate implementation. Jennifer, David continued, his attention returning to the floor manager with judicial finality, you are suspended without pay for 60 days pending complete investigation. Duration and reinstatement will be determined based on your compliance with mandatory retraining requirements and demonstration of genuine behavioral change. Jennifer's shoulders sagged in complete defeat. 2 months without pay would devastate her family financially, but she understood she was fortunate to retain employment at all. Brittany, David said finally, his voice carrying the absolute weight of corporate judgment. Your employment with Meridian Technologies is terminated immediately and permanently. Security will escort you from the building within 15 minutes. All access privileges are permanently revoked. You will not be eligible for rehire under any circumstances. Brittany collapsed into her chair, sobbing openly, her 8-month career destroyed in 15 minutes of prejudice broadcast to thousands of strangers. But David still wasn't finished delivering consequences. More importantly, he announced to the entire lobby, his voice carrying across the marble space, this incident will become a mandatory case study in our new corporate training program. Video footage will be shown to every current and future employee as a definitive example of unacceptable behavior. Emma's live stream had become a cultural phenomenon beyond anyone's imagination. Screenshots were spreading across every social media platform like digital wildfire. YouTube compilation videos were already being edited by content creators. TikTok remixes were gaining millions of views. The incident would follow Brittany and Jennifer for the rest of their professional lives, a permanent digital record of discrimination consequences. Rodriguez's radio crackled with increasingly urgent updates. Building management to security chief, multiple media vehicles now positioned at the main entrance. Channel 7 News, Chicago Tribune, Fox Business, plus 2 unidentified vans with satellite equipment. David looked at his watch. 2:52 p.m. The board meeting was 22 minutes behind schedule, but the real business of corporate transformation had been conducted in this marble lobby under the unblinking eye of social media documentation. Within 30 minutes, a professional security team appeared to escort Brittany from the building. She gathered her personal items with trembling hands, a small succulent plant, family photos, a coffee mug reading World's Best Receptionist, while 47 employees watched in absolute silence. Her departure was captured on 8 different phones. The image of her carrying a cardboard box past the same reception desk, where she'd thrown David's business card, would become the defining visual of corporate accountability in the digital age. Emma's phone had finally died at 5,234 viewers, but 4 other live streamers had taken up the documentation. The combined viewer count across all streams exceeded 12,000 people watching the aftermath unfold in real time across multiple platforms. Patricia, David said as the elevator doors opened, shall we proceed to the boardroom? Our acquisition partners are undoubtedly forming critical opinions about our company culture based on these social media reports. The executive elevator carried them to the 42nd floor in tense silence. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago stretched endlessly, unaware that a single incident had just redefined corporate accountability for thousands of digital witnesses. The boardroom was elegantly appointed. Brazilian walnut conference table, premium leather chairs, wall-mounted displays showing Meridian stock price, which had stabilized after dropping 2.3% during the lobby confrontation. Before we address the acquisition concerns, David announced to the assembled board members, I want immediate implementation of comprehensive systematic reforms. He activated the room's presentation system with practiced efficiency, displaying a detailed reform framework he'd apparently prepared weeks earlier, anticipating exactly this type of cultural crisis. First, the dignity protocol, he began, clicking to a professionally designed slide. Every visitor to any Meridian facility will be greeted with professional courtesy regardless of appearance, perceived status, accent, or personal assumptions. Verification procedures will prioritize respect over suspicion in all interactions. Board member Thomas Richardson raised his hand with obvious concern. The cost implications of comprehensive retraining across 8,200 employees. The cost of not training, David interrupted with devastating logic, is $750 million in lost acquisition revenue, plus immeasurable reputation damage, plus potential discrimination lawsuits totaling tens of millions, plus the inevitable exodus of top talent who refuse to work for companies that tolerate systematic bias. The mathematical argument was irrefutable and financially compelling. Second, real-time accountability systems. David continued, clicking to detailed implementation charts. Anonymous bias reporting through a dedicated mobile app that connects directly to executive leadership. Any reported incident triggers immediate investigation within 4 hours, with resolution required within 48 hours maximum. CFO Sarah Johnson pulled up implementation timelines on her tablet, calculating costs. App development, security testing, deployment, training, we're realistically looking at 6 weeks minimum for proper rollout. We're looking at 48 hours for emergency deployment, David corrected firmly. I've already contacted 3 experienced development teams. Emergency protocols justify expedited timelines when company reputation is at stake. His phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca Carter at Quantum AI. Saw troubling news reports, emergency board call requested at 4 p.m. today. The acquisition partners were getting seriously nervous about cultural alignment. Third, leadership visibility and accessibility protocols, he announced, clicking to organizational charts. Monthly CEO walkthrough of every floor, every department, every facility. Quarterly all-hands meetings where any employee can ask any question without hierarchical barriers or retaliation fears. Legal counsel Michael Carter looked genuinely concerned. Security implications of unrestricted access to executive leadership. The real security risk, David said with quiet intensity, is creating an insular leadership culture that breeds exactly the systemic problems we witness today. Fourth, educational partnership expansion, David announced, revealing detailed partnership agreements. Meridian will establish comprehensive pipeline programs with 15 historically black colleges and universities, providing paid internships, professional mentorship, and guaranteed interview opportunities for qualified graduates. The annual budget allocation for such programs, Thomas began calculating. $1 million annually, David cut him off decisively. Less than 0.06% of our total annual revenue. Less than what we typically spend on executive bonuses in a single quarter. Patricia Wu smiled for the first time since the crisis began. I appreciate the comprehensive vision, David. What's your realistic implementation timeline? The program launches in 60 days maximum. The first cohort of 20 paid interns starts this summer semester. He clicked to the final reform slide. Chief Equity Officer position, reporting directly to CEO with C-suite level authority. Full power to implement changes, investigate bias reports, and terminate employees who violate anti-discrimination policies. Do you have a candidate in mind? Sarah asked with genuine interest. Dr. Keisha Williams from Northwestern University. She's successfully consulted for Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Facebook on inclusion initiatives. Her track record shows measurable cultural improvements and legal compliance. David had clearly been planning these comprehensive reforms long before today's incident, strategically waiting for the right catalyst to implement sweeping changes. His phone rang again. Quantum AI calling back. Patricia, I need to take this acquisition call immediately. Our $750 million deal depends on damage control. He answered on speaker for board transparency. Rebecca, this is David. David, our entire board has reviewed the social media footage. We're deeply concerned about cultural alignment with our values. Rebecca Carter's voice carried unmistakable tension and possible deal-breaking implications. What you witnessed was exactly the systemic problem we hired me to eliminate, David replied with calm confidence. Meridian had serious cultural issues. Today we began solving them publicly, transparently, and permanently with measurable accountability. The optics are extremely troubling for our stakeholders. The optics demonstrate a company willing to hold itself accountable in real time, David interrupted strategically. Your team specifically chose us over Google and Microsoft because you wanted authentic progressive leadership. Today you saw exactly what that looks like when principles are tested under pressure. A long, calculating pause. We'll need comprehensive documentation of your reform initiatives before proceeding. I'll send detailed implementation plans within 2 hours, David promised confidently. After ending the call, he addressed the board with quiet authority. The acquisition will proceed successfully. Our transparency actually strengthened our negotiating position by demonstrating authentic commitment to systematic change rather than empty corporate rhetoric. Patricia Wu stood, extending her hand with genuine respect. David, you've transformed a potential catastrophe into an opportunity for industry leadership. The board unanimously supports your comprehensive reform agenda. 6 months later, the measurable results exceeded all projections. Employee satisfaction scores increased 41% after implementing the Dignity Protocol and anonymous bias reporting systems. Reported incidents dropped 67% as preventive training eliminated problematic behaviors before they escalated. Diversity hiring improved dramatically. 73% increase in underrepresented candidates, with retention rates exceeding company historical averages by 28%. The HBCU Partnership Program became an industry model copied by 12 major tech companies. Client retention improved 28% as Meridian's reputation for inclusive leadership attracted socially conscious corporate partners. 3 major contracts worth $89 million were signed specifically because clients wanted association with the company that handles bias correctly. Stock price rose 19% over 6 months as investors recognized that inclusive cultures consistently drive superior business outcomes. The quantum AI acquisition proceeded flawlessly, positioning Meridian as an industry leader in ethical artificial intelligence development. Most significantly, the incident became a Harvard Business School case study titled Real-Time Corporate Accountability in the Digital Age, taught to thousands of future business leaders worldwide. Dr. Keisha Williams, now Chief Equity Officer, published quarterly transparency reports showing measurable progress. Meridian became the first major tech company achieving B Corporation certification while maintaining Fortune 500 status. The anonymous bias reporting app was licensed by 47 companies seeking similar accountability systems. David keynoted conferences, appeared on CNBC, and advised executives on inclusive leadership. Emma Rodriguez's live stream was viewed 2.3 million times across platforms, launching her corporate consulting career. True leadership isn't about commanding respect. It's about creating cultures where respect becomes the foundation, not the exception. Share your workplace discrimination story in the comments. Tag someone who needs to see this. Subscribe to Black Soul Stories for more narratives of quiet strength transforming systems. Your voice creates change.